I'm Larry Mancy. Welcome to Another Thing. There was a stretch of 6 weeks late in the summer when 7 police officers were shot and killed. One was executed while pumping gas, leading to speculation that there is a growing anti-cop sentiment in this country. And so the questions: is there a correlation between the rash of police shootings and the coverage of police incidents involving black suspects across the country? Is there a correlation between the Black Lives Matter movement and the killing of police officers? That's our first topic today. Kolodziej kicks off our coverage. Ellen.
Many police officers around the country say they have felt under attack for months, especially after the recent rash of cop killings. The former police chief of Baltimore says there's a visceral hatred for the uniform, and he says that has had a chilling effect on fighting crime. In late August, Officer Darren Goforth was shot and killed outside Houston while filling up his gas tank.
In what appears to be an unprovoked, execution-style killing of a police officer.
There are a few bad apples in every profession. That does not mean that there should be open warfare declared on law enforcement. The vast majority of officers are there to do the right thing.
A few days later, outside Chicago, Lieutenant Joe Glinowitz was gunned down while chasing 3 suspects.
Lieutenant Glinowitz really made a difference in his life. It is sad to lose him.
Then in Alabama, an officer was pistol whipped unconscious because he said he hesitated to use force against the suspect because he did not want to be accused of killing an unarmed man. The Baltimore Sun reports that after the riots, homicides went up and arrests went down because some officers were becoming more cautious. The former Baltimore police chief agrees. Anthony Batts says anti-police sentiments are making officers around the country hesitant to leave their cars.
I would agree that it's made them think about it and possibly be hesitant to leave their cars. I mean, you'd have to look at that from town to town. But I can tell you this, and I know to be factually true, they're all disgruntled to the point to where they're not sure what backing they have, and they're disappointed in the things that have happened over the past 6 months and year or so.
Bill Brennan works as a peer counselor at Livingren for a service called FRAT, the First Responders Addiction Treatment Program. He knows all about the stress of being a police officer because he was a cop in Philly for 26 years. But he says the job is harder than ever.
I'm third generation in this business. My dad was Sergeant Brennan. My grandfather was Sergeant Brennan. And for the first time in my entire life, when young men or women ask me, about being a cop, I tell them, you know what, I wouldn't recommend it right now.
Now, some people would like to see the killing of any police officer become a federal hate crime. And some presidential hopefuls, including Ted Cruz, well, he says that all the anti-police rhetoric needs to stop immediately, and he points a finger directly at the White House. But after that recent shooting of the officer in Texas, the president did call the widow, and he said that all targeting of police is completely unacceptable.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Let's talk more about the current climate in this country that may put police officers in danger. And I say may because we have Ernest Parrey here, who is the director of the Trenton Police, and I want to pose that question to you. Does the current rhetoric, does the Black Lives Matter movement, does the fact that police officers, if they are involved in any altercation, it seems like in the country, make front page news, does that have an effect in that police officers now feel like they're in danger?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're looking at a situation now throughout the country where anything a police officer is involved in, like you said, it makes front page headlines. And so when you see the scrutiny that's going to be placed upon you in this line of work, you have to wonder what goes through the officer's mind. Is he going to second guess himself? Is he going to think about, well, maybe if I do this, I'll get myself into some sort of trouble or end up on the front page? So yeah, it's playing a part, I think, in a lot of officers' lives right now.
Now, some of the people who don't like the dialogue we're about to have and the dialogue we're beginning, some of the people who don't like this dialogue will argue back, well, wait a second. Police being shot in the line of duty, it's down from the year before. It's actually down over the last few years. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, however, the type of shootings are what's of a concern. The fact that police officers are being executed, police officers that seemingly are being set up. People are almost on the hunt for police officers. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I think if you look at what's taken place, especially down in Texas, Louisiana, I mean, you know, you have officers. You had an officer fueling his vehicle, and the subject walked upon him and fired and killed him, and then stood over him. It almost seemed like, especially in the latter parts of August into September, like an epidemic, to where people were just, you know, it was open season. And then, like you brought up, then you have these groups that are out there that are, you know, pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon, and comments like that. These are the people, if we think back, you know, we just went through the anniversary of 9/11. And if you think back to that, okay, in 2001, and how highly police and fire and EMS were looked upon, and now you look at what's going on in the country, and it's appalling, and I can't explain it. I can't explain it other than the fact that I think the media plays a part in it. I think the rhetoric of politicians plays a part in it. I don't think we've been overly fair in the way that we've talked about some of the instances. Ferguson, for example, okay? The Michael Brown situation, okay? The Department of Justice said that the officer did nothing wrong. But we heard more about, from the Department of Justice, the fact that the Ferguson Police Department and the community of Ferguson was a dysfunctional relationship. But you really needed to have the message out about the officer additionally. They should have been, you know, whether you want to, you know, do a bifurcated type of press play on it, it should have been done. But it really wasn't. It became more about how dysfunctional, you know, the Ferguson Police Department was.
Because of this climate, are police officers worried? Are they scared?
I don't like to use the word scared. I'll say apprehensive. I think when you go into a situation where it's unknown, you know, you're making decisions in a split second. And after that decision is made, there's no takebacks. So now the fear factor is there that, okay, where am I going to end up in all of this?
The shooting rate, the murder rate across the country has gone up ever since all of this coverage, ever since the Black Lives Matter movement, ever since Ferguson and Eric Garner and Freddie Gray in some of these cases. It's gone up to the point where they're breaking records already in Baltimore, and it's way up in New York. Do you see a relation? Are the police backing off a little bit because they don't want to get involved in these altercations?
I don't know if they're backing off. I think that's kind of tough to say. I think there's a lot that plays into it from a political standpoint as well. Stop and frisk is a hot topic. You know, New York is going through it. Philadelphia, you know, the thought process is, you know, stop and frisk needs to go away. You'll hear some pundits out there say that stop and frisk isn't effective.
And you believe it is?
I believe it is.
And you believe it's necessary?
I believe it is necessary.
Would a police officer be willing to do stop and frisk in this climate where just stopping somebody could go to an altercation where either they're in front page news or they could end up getting killed?
You'll end up having people second guess themselves, I can assure you of that.
And once they second guess themselves, that's a danger
that
in and of itself.
That is a danger in and of itself. It's a danger not only to the officer, but if I don't take action against someone that is a potential threat, who knows where that individual is going from that point? Who knows who else may be a victim?
This might be unfair to lay on your lap, but how do we fix this?
I think a big part of it, and I am a huge proponent of community policing. And I know, again, it's a buzzword out there, but this is something that I've been a part of since the early 90s in the city of Trenton. If you don't build that bridge in the community where you have folks that truly want to be a part of policing their own communities, you're never going to succeed. The police department will always be looked upon as an occupying force, and the community really doesn't want you there unless you're there for an immediate problem. Don't come.
Ernie, thanks again. You're
Larry,
always good.
pleasure as
I would
always.
imagine you'd like to see the media show some responsibility in covering these stories as well.
I sure would.
All right, thank you so much. Ernest Parrey, who is the director of the Trenton Police, and you're always great when you come in. When we come back, we are going to talk to some of the people at the Monmouth Polling Institute. We're here at Monmouth University. They have been making national news with their polls. We're going to talk specifically about the rise in power of non-politicians in their polls when Another Thing continues.